you need to get big fast. And so what can we acquire in a good jurisdiction that has a resource that no one really thinks is available?
What I love to do is introduce the right people to the right people. I assemble the smartest people I can think of or reach out to carry that conversation, and that's exactly what I've done today.
Please give my panel a round of applause. Welcome.
What's up, guys? Jay Martin here, CEO of Cambridge House, and today I'm sitting down with the CEO of New Placer Dome, Max Sali. Max, how are you?
Great to be here. I'm great, thank you.
Okay, so it's good to have you back because earlier this week, if you're a newsletter subscriber, you know that we published a report on New Placer. The reason we published on New Placer, the reason Max is back in the show is because we sat down a year ago, right? Right in this studio, back when New Placer was burying mining. We introduced the story to our audience, but a lot's changed in that year. And so I wanted to get an update directly from you. You know, you were making a very large bet on the gold market turning around. That's happened, so that's paid off, congratulations, and a lot has changed. You've done a lot in this year. So I want to talk about New Placer Dome because you guys have been super busy and accomplished a lot since the last time we sat right here. But before we do, let's talk broad strokes gold sector. I'd love to know your perspective. Do you have a forecast, Max, on the gold price?
You know, when we sat down here a year ago, gold was $1,400. I truly expected gold to, at some point in the 1 to 2 year mark, hit new highs. We have done that. Obviously, recent events have occurred that have significantly blown that old price out of proportion. You know, we almost hit $2,100. And so when we sat down a year ago, I felt that, you know, now was the time to really start acquiring high quality assets because something's got to give in the world. You know, the bull markets ran for so long. And obviously what we've seen now is we've seen trillions of dollars being printed from recent events. We've seen interest rates near zero, real interest rates negative. And so that really, you know, makes people think, where do you put your money? And gold is the place to be. It's always been the place to be as a safe haven. But gold juniors are where you really see money being made. And so for us, acquiring really high-grade assets at the last time we talked, and before that when we acquired Bolo, now Kinsley, really allowed us to pick up some significant assets at a very good valuation, which would both cost substantially more in this market now. So I think the vision that we had as a board and as a whole was, you know, let's start a bit early, but benefit because we started early, and now having two assets that we are working on with a significant drill program to really build value for our shareholders at this time.
So congrats to you for making that bet at that time because you're being rewarded. But in the last year, a lot has changed. Like I said, when we sat down a year ago, what I liked about you guys were that you were super, super hungry. And we sat in these chairs, actually, and you're like, it doesn't matter how early stage we are, we're gonna do whatever it takes to get this done, right? Yeah. And I like the team you put together. I've made money with a few of them before, and I'm all about the management team, as you guys know, in addition to the capital that you had behind you, even back then, but a lot's changed. So you were a one asset company a year ago, Bolo, in Nevada, but you've acquired new property that you mentioned. Let's talk a little bit about that.
So Kinsley is an asset that we acquired, or we're in the process of acquiring in December of 2019. Gold is around $1,450. Marin introduced me to Cal Everett, who runs Liberty Gold. We had a conversation about, you know, Bolo's a good asset, but we're going into a very big bull market. You need to get big fast. And so what can we acquire in a good jurisdiction that has a resource that no one really thinks is available? And so I sat down with Cal, with our board and his, and we were able to get a deal done for Kinsley. We ended up doing $12.5 million financing in early summer, which is one of the bigger financings for junior at our time. We were kind of the start of the party. We had a pre-money of 6.2 and raised 100% of our market cap more in cash for Kinsley. And why we really liked Kinsley is because Kinsley comes with a resource. Because it was a fundamental acquisition, we had to update the 43-101. So what we have now is 418,000 ounces in an indicated, and we have 117,000 ounces inferred, which gives us 535,000 ounces in Nevada, on trend with the Long Canyon mine, which is owned in the Barrick Newmont JV, and on trend with Bald Mountain, which is owned by Kinross. So we have a very exciting property that has a lot of potential and had a lot of success in the past. Kinsley was an asset that was sitting in Pilot Gold Corp, which is now Liberty. Yeah. When Pilot Gold drilled Kinsley in 2013 and 14, the peak market cap of Pilot Gold was $250 million based off the results that Kinsley had. We're talking Kirkland Lake grades in Nevada, 20 meters of 20 grams, 30 meters of 30 grams. And that really caught our attention. And so to have this asset sit on the back burner for years and not really be worked on, we felt it was the perfect opportunity for New Placer Dome, as a smaller company, to go and acquire that and then bring value to Liberty, because now they own 9.9% of our stock.
Right.
And as our stock goes up, the value of that asset brings value to Liberty. And so I think, you know, being bold, like you said, and being aggressive is something that we wanted to do, and we have Kinsley now. We are drilling a 20,000 meter drill program. We have 3 rigs at Kinsley turning. As of this morning, we announced we've completed 21 holes for 8,000 meters, and we're not even halfway done that drill program.
Amazing. Okay, now anybody who watches this is familiar with Liberty Gold. We've had Cal on stage so many times at our Vancouver Resource Investment Conference over the last few years. So talk about that value. What's it like having somebody like Cal with the street credibility and the track record that he has as an advisor to New Placer?
Cal is unbelievable at what he does. He's a geologist. He's very smart. He's one of the best promoters I know. But the nice thing about Cal is he promotes real good quality assets, and anyone can promote. And you see a lot of people that do promote assets, and they go up and they go down. Cal's built a serious company, Liberty Gold, with a $550 million market cap. He's got a fantastic team with Mark O'Day as the chairman,
Yeah.
Moira Smith, their PhD geo, who found the Long Canyon mine that was sold to Newmont for $2.2 billion in 2011. And so he's got a great team behind him. He's very energetic. He's been a mentor to me. And I really appreciate having him on as our senior financial advisor, you know, and just chatting with Cal a couple times a week and just listening. And I think the best advice that I've ever received is come from Cal, because a guy like that just wants to see the younger generation succeed, and I think we're doing that. And I really appreciate all the advice that he's given me.
Okay, I love that, and I want to touch on your mentorship a little bit more with Cal and with anybody else who's in your circle. But before we get to that, you need to answer a question from my audience who's been asking me. We've had some inquiries. Why did you change the name? Because we had you on last year as Barry and Mining. Today, you're New Placer.
This was actually between Marin, and Cal. We were joking around about what could be more bold and cheeky. And if people remember, there was the original Placer Dome. And it was sold in 2006 for about $9 billion US to Barrick. Gold Corp threw $1 billion on that transaction. And we were joking around with Brad Telfer, who's Ian Telfer's son, who is Gold Corp, or was Gold Corp.
Yeah.
And we said, well, why don't we name it Placer Dome? It's a joke. And we said, well, we can't do that, but what about New Placer Dome? So it's bold, it's cheeky, and it stands out. And I think in this market, if you do not stand out, you will not get the value you deserve. And so we come out swinging with a new name, a new symbol, NGLD, and here we are, hitting the ground running.
I love it. Okay, so you touched on Cal and Marin a little bit. Talk a bit more about your relationship with Marin Katusa.
So Marin is probably one of the smartest guys I've ever met. He's also one of the toughest guys I've ever met. It's not fun going to his office. You know, when you go to present to Marin, somehow he knows more about the deal you're presenting to him than you do. And Marin's angle is, I like this, but I think you should do this. And if you don't do that, well, I think it's a bad idea. And so, you know, the short of the long is he's usually correct, right? And he's very intelligent. He's one of the hardest workers I know. And so when I went to see Marin originally, I met Marin through my uncle Rob Sali. And I sat down with him in 2018 when we were starting Berrien. And I said, Marin, I really like this asset, Mogollon. It was sitting in another company. And Marin said, oh, I know the other company it's sitting in, but I don't like that asset. I think you should drop that, and I think you should get Bolo. And if you get Bolo, I will finance you. We got a deal done for Bolo at $1,200 gold. The asset has performed extremely well. Last year, we drilled top 2% of all holes that were drilled in Nevada. Oxide came from Bolo, out of any junior, mid-tier, or senior. And so we really appreciate having Marin giving us that advice. But not only that, is that last October he said, you know what, Max? I think this is great, but you need something bigger, and I want you to go after Kinsley. And it was Marin that introduced me to Cal Everett. And so I've been very blessed to have been given the opportunity to meet Marin and to work together with him and Cal. And I think without him giving us that advice, we wouldn't be sitting here today with Kinsley.
Amazing, and that's largely been the story of Berrien/New Placer, young team with amazing role models and mentorship. Does anybody else come to mind, Max, that's helping you?
Yes. My 3 big mentors, number 1 is my uncle Robert Sali. He was one of the biggest brokers in Canada until he retired in 2011. He's still a very big presence in the mining investment community. My dad passed away in 2016, and my uncle really kind of took over that role of giving good family advice and fatherly advice. And what I've learned from him is the kind of person he invests in, or his firm or his friends invest in, they're really betting on the horse. And I've learned to be honest and hardworking and have good integrity, and just, you got to make sure that whatever you're doing, what is the best way to do it, and remember that you work for your shareholders. This is not my company. I think a lot of CEOs say, my company. I work for you, and I work for everyone that's watching this video. So how do I bring the best value to my shareholders? And I've learned that, and I've seen a lot of assets fail because of management. Either the assets don't get the right exploration programs or have the right eyes on them. So one thing he's always taught me is work hard, work honestly, and you'll succeed.
Okay, now you completed a $12 million raise late spring, early summer. Talk to me about your investor base and your shareholder base.
So when we were Berrien originally, we did our IPO. It was a very small IPO, about $2.5 million, and we were mainly retail. The difference between then and now is we had Kinsley we were funding, which was a much bigger asset in a better environment. Without Rob Sali and Cal Everett, this financing wouldn't have got done. And I think people need to be recognized for their efforts. As a younger CEO, I went in there, willing to work as hard as I could, but I didn't have the network. And so Rob opened up his network, Cal opened up his network, Marin opened up their network, and we were able to bring some of the most qualified investors, some very, very top-notch brokers, and some funds. We have a fund managed by Sprott. We have 2 Dundee funds and a smaller fund out of Toronto. So now we have a good institutional base. We have very, very high net worth investors. My family came in for over $1 million of the financing. And Liberty Gold is our largest shareholder with 9.9%, and that is voluntary locked up. But not only that, is that with the transaction closing, that brought on Cal as our senior financial advisor, and we also have the ability to run all of our technical stuff by the Liberty's technical team, which really gives us the ability to make sure that when we are drilling our project, we have the best of the best looking at it.
That's an amazing resource. Okay, now you're presently running a drill operation. What can prospective shareholders, existing shareholders expect to hear from you in the next few months?
We're running one of the biggest drill programs for any junior in Nevada currently. We have 4 drill rigs turning right now. As of this morning, we have 21 holes done at Kinsley, or 8,000 meters. We have 10 holes at Bolo, or 2,500 meters complete. There will be another 30 holes at Kinsley and another 10 holes at Bolo. This is an extremely large program. We have 3 rigs at Kinsley. We have an RC truck, an RC track, and a core. And those rigs are on different parts of the asset. We're trying to make new discoveries while upgrading the resource. And so what the core rig is currently doing is upgrading some of the inferred indicated on the resource. The RC track is stepping out of the resource to show it's bigger. And the RC truck, which is the big rig, is testing all new targets on the property. And so we're trying to make new high-grade discoveries like the previous drill results, which will increase our market cap significantly and increase the share price significantly. On Bolo, we have an RC rig that's doing about 5,000 meters. We originally announced 3,500, and based off early indications of good mineralization, we have increased that to over 5. We have the money. We have the rigs there. We are almost to the percentage on budget, and we will keep those rigs there as long as we can.
Okay, so we can expect pretty consistent news flow over the next few months.
You will be expecting or seeing news flow. We had our first results last week on Bolo. We had a nice oxide intercept through till February.
Okay.
It has been almost to the week we will have news from Kinsley and Bolo back to back.
Okay, so we've got lots to look forward to. Max, thanks so much for coming back on the show. It was great to reconnect and get the update. I hope you guys enjoyed this.
Thank you very much, Jay.